Welcome everybody to another Tiger Talk Tuesday. Great to have you with us. We have volleyball and golf this week, and we're going to get right into introducing our esteemed panel. We have Greg Gibbons, the head coach of volleyball in his 11th season. We have John Cook in his 6th season as the head golf coach. Student athletes, we have Sedona Sherman, and she is from Goodyear, Arizona. She'll be entering her sophomore season. Griffin Long from Davis, also entering his sophomore season with the golf team. And then our alum, we have Elsa Stegemann from the 1999 class of 1999 volleyball team, one of the top players in the country at her time at Pacific. And Jeff Brehaut from the class of 1986 Pacific Hall of Fame inductee, who's had a very nice professional golf career. Welcome, everybody, and hope you're all doing well. I'm going to get right into it, and I want some updates here from Greg and from John about what you've heard as it pertains to the start of your seasons. I think that's kind of the logical starting point to all this. So, Greg, I'll open with you.
Hey, well, we had our first official workout today with one student athlete who has cleared physicals and, COVID testing. And so all this week, I mean, first of all, let me thank Janet, Holly, Wes, CP, and all their staffs, because all their extremely hard work, it is starting to come to fruition, because we're getting our athletes, they're getting physicals, getting the COVID testing, all the planning and preparation that's gone into this. And I was on campus so excited yesterday, and today where our one athlete was able to lift with Joey. Everything's outside right now, but I mean, it's awesome. And then as far as our season, we're going to be running our indoor and beach seasons at the same time. It looks like that's the next thing I think Janet's working on with the WCC, is getting that schedule put together. And it looks like we'll be a full go come January, as slowly as, the stages that we're doing to get back into lifting. We're going to be lifting here for a couple weeks, making sure the bodies are ready to get after it from this time off and all the quarantining and different things we've had to do. And then we're going to start getting back into training. So it's exciting. We're taking steps forward for sure. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully those target dates kind of hold up. John, how about you?
Right now we've been pretty fortunate with the game of golf. Golf itself is a kind of a social distance sport. So the guys have been playing tournaments all summer long, which has been a nice thing for them to do. Obviously, we only have 3 guys in town right now because the way this is working with the university and the policies, if the guys come inside the bubble, they're not allowed to leave and go play in some tournaments on their own during the weekend. So they're still kind of practicing in town unofficially at the courses that we have access to, and they're practicing like that. We're trying to get our schedule finalized for the spring. Obviously, our season's kind of split in both the fall and the spring segment, and our fall season counts as well. But that's been shut down for the fall this year with the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're looking forward to getting things running here up as soon as possible in the spring, when we can figure out when we can start going.
John, how much of your schedule is predicated on tournaments, and how, I guess, reluctant are people to set up some tournaments now just because they don't know what the guidelines will be at any given place or region?
Yeah, because most of our tournaments, we generally have 15 to 20 universities at each tournament. So it's been kind of hard because obviously, we travel around the country. We got teams from the East Coast coming west going east, and vice versa. That's been kind of a logistic, a nightmare, lack of a better term, trying to get this. Now is it just going to be regional teams and maybe just teams in California? So there's a bunch of A, B, C case scenarios. If we can figure this out and we get some direction what we can go, it'll be a little bit easier to navigate through all the scheduling we're trying to deal with right now.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine what a hard time that would be. Sedona, hello. Nice to see you. I mentioned you're from Goodyear, Arizona, Millennium High School in Goodyear. Last year, you ranked 5th on the team, 167 kills, 2nd with 48 blocks. What was it like last season as a freshman at Pacific? And then I guess subsequently, what's it been like for you since March and with distance learning and still trying to get your training in?
I guess last year I didn't really know what to expect since it was my first season playing volleyball. But, I mean, I love this team more than anything. I've played volleyball for who knows how many years now, and I've never felt closer with a group of people. And that's what I really think this is all about, because, come to college, you know, to get an education, but it's so much more than just that. Like there's so much more that comes out of it. And so I think being surrounded by this group of girls has really helped me, you know, find more reason to just like, other than just playing volleyball and just like coming to college for school. And we were talking about this last night. I feel like ever since quarantine started, like I didn't really realize how much volleyball like controlled my life in an essence. And so it's been really hard for me to try to find another source of like a place where I can go to relieve all my stress, because that's what I depended on volleyball for. Like where if I was dealing with stuff during the day, whether it was schoolwork or family or friends or whatever, I could just go to volleyball and not have to worry about any of that stuff. So once you took volleyball away, then it was like, oh crap, well now I have to find something else to do. And so I think that's probably been the hardest part. But now that we're finally starting to get things back, like we're finally starting to get physicals and being able to work out, I feel more back to normal, I guess. So it's really exciting to hear all that.
Yeah, that's real poignant what you said. I feel like we can all identify in our own lives something where we once had an outlet and then it was taken away, and we've kind of struggled to overcome that. And I think it's in the struggle we'll all find growth in that. But I'm glad that you know, that you kind of got over that hump, and hopefully volleyball is around the corner. Were you in Arizona for quarantine?
I went home about a week after quarantine like hit, whatever month that was in. It was so long ago, I don't even remember.
It was like March, I think.
Yeah, and then I stayed there and I came back like mid-August, and I've been here since then.
Cool. Griffin, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You are entering your sophomore season. You're from Davis, so just right up the road out of Davis High School. How has it been for you since quarantine, and how was your freshman year at Pacific?
Since quarantine, it's definitely been interesting. A lot of stuff to get used to and kind of adapt to. Freshman season for me, at least, was kind of a big learning year. Definitely a jump going from junior competition to the college level. And I struggled in some tournaments, had a few good rounds too, but kind of during this forced break from competition, kind of been able to look back on some of the experiences that I've had and try and work on the things that I was weak at. And over the summer was able to play some pretty good golf and hopefully be able to keep competing and getting better going forward when we can get back.
Yeah, so you're kind of in a different boat than Sedona, where she kind of had volleyball taken away from her. But as a golfer, I don't think you ever had that experience where golf was taken away from you. Am I wrong?
There was about like a 2.5 month stretch where there was absolutely nothing. But after that,
you couldn't even go out on a course and work out there?
Yeah, pretty much all the courses were shut down. There was maybe an odd driving range that nobody knew about that managed to stay open, but all the courses for the most part had closed.
Wow. Well, I'm glad a lot of them are opening back up, and hopefully you guys get started somewhere close to on time. I want to welcome our esteemed alum, Elsa. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Class of 1999. So it's been what, 21 years for you?
Yeah. Way to me.
No, you know what? I'm not too far away from you. I'm almost in that boat. So I'm right there with you.
I'm in my mid-40s.
Okay, well, I'm pushing 40.
For those of you who can't do math.
Do you believe it's been? I mean, does it feel like it was yesterday still for you when you think back to your days on the volleyball team?
No. The thing is that the people, we all age together, right? So the team that was on that kind of magical journey is still very close. I still get so many texts and emails and social media responses from the people, and it is nice to be able to see them in their lives and the coaches and stuff. But you know, life has happened. A lot of life has happened since those days. So it doesn't feel like yesterday, but I do remember and look back in such great fondness of that time in my life.
I think that's been a common theme with all the former student athletes we've had on. You're falling right in line, and I would imagine Jeff, being a Pacific Hall of Fame inductee, had a similar experience and kind of has that same fond fond feeling when you look back on your time at Pacific. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. Yeah, I'm the dinosaur in the group here. I wish I was in my 40s.
We got. I mean, Gibbons is there with you, right?
Oh,
Oh, throw him under the bus. That's
Well, I mean, I can't make Jeff feel terrible right now. I had to get him some kind of companionship here. Greg, what year did you graduate college?
Me, 97.
Okay. Well, I tried.
Well, you got to remember, I was in the Marine Corps before that, though.
Okay.
So
Okay. So you would have been what, early 90s ish?
I would have been what, 92.
Okay.
Would have been my original class.
Do you feel better, Jeff?
He's still a pup.
Yeah. No.
But what's interesting is that, this morning, my best friends are the guys from the golf team back when I graduated, and we got a text group, and we're pretty much rolling back and forth all the time. If you guys get some crazy questions, it's going to probably be from them talking about the old days. But yeah, I mean, they're literally my best friends still. So, for the students that are there right now, cherish the friends you have, because you're probably going to have them forever.
Those are wise words. By the way, I neglected to mention, I didn't mean to leave it out. It was just an oversight. Elsa is also in the Pacific Athletics Hall of Fame. So I identified Jeff there, and I want to make sure that I identify Elsa as being an esteemed Hall of Famer as well. We're so happy to have you all here. Jeff, while I'm with you, what was it like in the 80s playing golf at Pacific? Like what types of courses did you play? Kind of take us back and give us a lay of the land back in those times.
I mean, I don't think it's probably much different then than it is now. We played Elkhorn Country Club, Stockton Country Club, and Woodbridge. So now they have a couple other options to play. But, we traveled not so much the East Coast, but the Western states, some of the Midwest. We played my sophomore year, we were 15th in the country, I think. And so we had a competitive team. We played against most of the best teams in the country. And we're pretty good, so it was great.
Just to go from one extreme to the other, John, can you now give us kind of what Pacific Golf is doing in terms of the facility? I know, the facility's been an amazing addition for you guys. The Walter Chang Golf and Learning Center, which is at Spanos Park. But can you give us some background into how that all went down and what it means for your program now?
yeah. I mean, we are extremely fortunate to have especially with everything going on with the pandemic, but having that thing completed. Obviously, we opened it back up in February of this year, and then we had to shut it down. It was only open for about a month. But, the day I got hired, the day I accepted the job, the drawings were on the wall. There was some talk about trying to build this master practice facility out there. And, thanks. I'm going to give Tim Dixon some props right now. We spent a lot of countless hours working the phones, talking to people, lunches, meetings. We got very fortunate to raise all the money we had. Obviously, the first phase was the Dr. Glenn Albaugh short game area. And we had some very generous alumni to donate to that, to get that going on the naming of that. And then phase 2 was obviously the unbelievable facility we built. We're still getting all the furniture in and getting everything finalized with everything going on with the pandemic. Haven't everything been delivered yet, but we're getting really close to having it all officially done inside there, which is pretty exciting.
So have you guys been able to operate it all inside there yet?
No, not really.
Okay, I wasn't sure of the timeline. I know it opened just recently, but I didn't know if before COVID you were able to get in there.
We were in there for about 3 weeks and then maybe a month at the most before things kind of shut down.
Okay. Griffin, have you been able to see the inside and tour it?
I have seen the inside. Yeah, before everything shut down.
Okay.
We were in it for a couple days.
Nice. What was it like through your eyes?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Everything you need to get better and more. Everything's top of the line. Really great area.
Awesome. That's something I think we're all excited to see and be able to experience when we finally get reopened. Griffin, you won the high school masters championship at the reserve at Spanos Park. You being from Davis, so you come down and win that tournament. Do you find it funny or ironic at all, or did that winning that tournament help you kind of get to Stockton? How did that all go for you?
It's definitely a little ironic, I think, because I've always really liked the Masters high school tournament there. Had always really enjoyed playing it. And so it's funny now that that's kind of my home course. Yeah. And yeah,
that's really, really cool. Sedona, what was it like for you to have to go back to Arizona, kind of come back and see, I guess, the world change in your time from being in Arizona and now getting back on campus? And it's probably a stark contrast to the first day you arrived for your freshman year, coming back for your sophomore year. What's this experience kind of been like returning now?
It's been kind of frustrating, if I'm being honest, just because we see all of these other schools like practicing and competing, and some schools still have seasons, so it's hard to like see all of those people like getting better and being able to at least train. And being in the area we're in, we have so like many more limitations because of the condition of Stockton right now. So it's been hard, but I mean, I just have to trust the process. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, it definitely hasn't been easy, but I know it'll work out in the long run. So,
Greg, can you speak to that as a head coach?
As far as what the conditions and things like that?
As far as others being able to train and kind of get going and being limited in the area and region.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got to remember, I mean, Sedona, you know, she has girls that she's played with that are at opponent universities, you know, in our conference, where BYU never stopped training. You know, you've got some schools that are, but every county is very different. You know, within our own conference, you know, it's hard. And I used to, because I'm constantly looking at these COVID numbers and cases and different things. It's just where, you know, we have these spikes. I mean, we're just in areas where there's spikes. Same with LMU, same with Pepperdine, you know, same with San Francisco. And it just, you know, the county health department. And I'll tell you what, for us to be able to get on track where we want to go and do what we want to do, though, and that's where I said our administration, in all aspects, even from President Callahan, I mean, just the amount of work with the county to be able to do and get to where we're at now is pretty amazing. And how fast it's been actually happening, you know, where we thought someone's going to happen, but the county's like, no, we can't do this and this. And now to make sure that it's going to happen. So it's like anything. I'm extremely antsy. I mean, every week I keep going in there hoping to see someone. I mean, even yesterday, you know, Janet thought she was going to have a quiet day in her office, and I pop in her doorway and speak to her for like 25 minutes, you know, and then I was able to hand out some gear with our you know, players and stuff. So that was my hello to them. And I was so excited. I'm like, is this for real? You know, so it's real exciting when it just baby steps, you know, we're moving forward. That's all it is focus, trust the process, and we're going to get there.
Can you tell us a little bit about your incoming freshman class? I know you've been excited about them.
Yeah. I mean, what's not to like? I mean, we return every player, you know what I mean? Where every key player, we're finally have that upperclassman, because the past 2 years we've been freshmen and sophomores. Then we added one of the top ranked classes in the country here, you know, where you've got Alexa Edwards, you know, a high school All-American outside hitter that it adds, you know, with Romani. I mean, we have so many. We're still waiting on one to get to campus. I mean, you've got Sydney Collins out of Texas, who was my first ever recruit that I've never, ever met in person and recruited fully through Zoom. And I mean, my first experience with her, you know, was that's where I learned how to work with Zoom and all this different social media and different whatever you work with, was recruiting her through the technology. Mm-hmm. And her trusting, like she never even once, we gave her a virtual tour of our campus. You know, we had a drone that my assistants flew over and were able to get some things and show her. And she talked to players through Zoom, and that's how we recruited her. But you've got some big arms. I mean, a lot of things. We've got this really strong team that's finally maturing and coming in. And then we just added this big old class to come in to add some strengths. I mean, we're definitely got some size and physicality to add to an already, you know, physical team that's maturing together. So, I mean, what is not to like about what we have? I mean, you got Miranda, another setter, you know, that actually her and Alexa played for me when they were little teeny ones. When they were 13, 14, 15, they played club ball for me. And so here they are, you know, these young adults that are coming in and, you know, wearing, you know, Pacific on their back. So, I mean, I'm just getting antsy. I mean, I can't get more excited than to be able to get into a gym or even outside. You know, I'm trimming the grass out there to get training.
Real quick, I want to get Sedona's thoughts on the team coming into this season. But before I move on from Greg, like we talked to Damon Stoudemire on here. I think it was probably a couple months ago now, and he talked about how COVID kind of levels the playing field in terms of recruiting. Did you kind of feel that way going through your process recruiting through Zoom and all that?
Are you talking to me or are you talking to Greg?
To Greg.
Oh, to me. Oh, sorry. I thought you were. I'm like, wow, that's a weird question to ask.
No, sorry. Sorry.
No, I don't know. You know what? I think we've been in a really good position because you got to remember we already had recruited like this class. We primarily had committed before all this. We recruited one. I don't know. I think that remains to be seen. We're such a young class though, and now with the NCAA rule where this class, the fall sports get a year of eligibility or an extra year of eligibility is, I don't know, because we were so young where we didn't have a lot of openings for recruits. We were pretty well set. We already committed our 3 for next year. We'd already committed our 1 for the year after that. And so I don't know. I mean, possibly, I think time will tell, but I don't know. We'll wait and see. But I really like what we have.
Sure. Now I want Sedona to jump in, and I want Sedona to tell us a little bit about what she's heard about the incoming freshmen and how excited you are for the team that's been set up for, 20 whatever we get to play, probably 2021.
Like Greg was saying, I'm really excited for everyone. I know we have a great group of girls coming in. I think just the one hard thing is we haven't been able to really get to know them. Because of everything that's going on. So I'm really excited to actually get to see them in person and all of us hang out as a team, really get to know each other instead of just talking to each other through Zoom. But I really do think we have a great group of girls, definitely some diversity. And I know I met Alexa Edwards the first time I came to Pacific because her mom used to play here. So she was here and that was the first time I met her. And then, I had no idea that 2 years later we would both be committed to Pacific. And so I'm really excited to get to start playing with her and everyone else.
I'm sure. John, I want to jump to you. You have a lot of international recruits coming in. How do you kind of acclimatize them in what's a weird kind of setting right now with all that's going on?
Yeah, well, our one true freshman, Hacken, he's actually here right now. So he's from Norway and he's in Stockton right now. Our other two newbies, Leonardo Rigamani, he's in Italy. He was actually a 4-year transfer from a school out in Tennessee. So he's been in the States before. And then Tommy O'Rourke from Australia, he was actually a JC transfer from down in Reedley. So they've both been in the States before. They're just back home right now with everything going on. But we've been doing a lot of Zooms pretty much late at night, about 11 o'clock our time, so we can get everyone on at the same time. Some guys are getting ready to go to bed, and they're just getting up for the next day. But we normally touch base about once a week that way. And obviously a lot of thank goodness for the WhatsApp. Myself and my assistant, Nick Zaccardi, I think we wear that thing out just about every day with the guys checking on something or following up with something like that. Yeah, you just got to be creative and kind of go with the flow right now.
Griffin, I know Sedona had mentioned, it's tough for them because they haven't gotten a chance to all meet and work together. Does that matter so much in the golf world? I know it's kind of an individual sport. You play as a team, but your success is predicated on the individual effort. But does it matter if you meet, your new teammates in terms of being able to go out there and compete as much as it would for, say, volleyball?
It definitely matters, but I would say probably less than a sport like volleyball. It's super important to have a group of guys that get along together. I think if you don't have that, it becomes really difficult, but definitely makes it easier to get rolling, having not everyone know each other because everyone kind of does their own thing and hopefully the collective effort kind of ends up being good.
Sure. I want to bring in Elsa and Jeff here, and I kind of want to get you guys' perspective on if you've gone back a few years in your mind and thought about how you guys would have handled this situation as a student athlete in this environment as a student athlete. I could start with you, Elsa. Have you considered what it would have been like had the pandemic happened, say, in 1997?
Well, that's actually a good year for you to bring up because that was the year I blew out my knee. So
I'm on a roll today, aren't I?
Yeah. So when Sedona was talking, and by the way, that's one of my favorite places in the world, is that when you were talking about how you felt like you lost something, right? I had a different experience because I was injured, right? And I had my whole world. I had just gotten back from World University Games. I had been playing, 100 million days a year for 6 years straight. And all of a sudden I landed on one leg and it was over, right? And so I feel like I've experienced something like that, except that I was experiencing it alone, because you have to define yourself as something else. I am no longer a volleyball player right now, so who am I? What do I want to grow as? And in that process, and I was really fortunate because I had access to Glenn Alba all the time. I had access to John Dunning all the time. And I had access to my trainer, Stacy Jensen, who's Ritter now. And the process of making me whole as a physical human made me a much, much, much better volleyball player. The things that I accomplished after blowing out my knee were much greater than the things that I accomplished before. So perhaps the silver lining is that we can realize what we truly love and figure out how to become better in the space, both mentally, maybe physically. Maybe it's not the touches, but maybe it's the mindset. And maybe it's the love of the game. And maybe it's the fact, like for me, I landed on one leg forever. No one could fix it. Nobody could fix it until I blew out my knee. And then all of a sudden, I was kicked out of practice every time I jumped on one leg. And because I blew out my knee, and that would have blown it out again. That would have been, frowned upon, right? And so that balance of making sure that I was set and that I did that made me a much, 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 much better hitter. But I had to start from scratch. I had to relearn everything. And it's like that, whatever that there's a Buddhist proverb where it says, is this good or bad? Maybe. maybe yes, maybe no, who knows? But you can grow in whatever fire you are forged in.
That was an answer with some depth that I wasn't ready for. Thank you for that. That was
sorry about that.
No, that was phenomenal. That's a really comprehensive look into what it might be like. I'm glad I picked 1997. I'm sorry you had to relive your blowing out your knee, but I'm glad that you were able to answer that way. Jeff, what about you? Have you thought about what this would have been like if you were, trying to compete and be a college student at the same time?
Yeah, my daughter is a senior at Montana State. I coach many players that are in college playing golf right now. I feel terrible for them for losing their golf season. The whole social thing, that was more important than golf for me. The college experience was the people I was with. And so when you just pull all that, rip it right out from these kids, I feel terrible. Some of my kids have taken a gap year. One guy's golf team, St. Edward's College in Texas, the golf team was canceled. So he had to go find another. He's actually at an IMG golf school in Florida for a year, and he's going to transfer next year. So, I don't know if I would have taken a gap year. I might have thought about it. I might have stuck it out, but it just stinks. The whole thing just stinks.
Yeah, it really does. But, you look forward and you hope that things can kind of get better. And like Elsa said, maybe there are ways you can grow and you never thought you could grow in these ways. So I guess we'll find it out in time.
One thing is to make the best of a bad situation, right? The glass is always half full. If you looked what, say, like Bryson DeChambeau did when the COVID started, he was whatever he was, 190 pounds. And nobody knew what he was doing, but he worked harder than everybody to put on weight, to gain speed, to hit the ball as far as anybody on tour. And when the first tournament showed back up, the guy was like 40 pounds more and he was hitting it further than everybody. So if you have the discipline to train yourself when everybody else is sitting on a couch, maybe you come back better.
Those are wise words. By the way, what were some of your memories of being on tour? What was that like for you? And what is that like for you if you go back out?
It was great, but it was work. And it was great when I was playing well or pretty well. It was really tough when I wasn't. When you're on the PGA Tour, you only get paid if you make the cut. If you start missing cuts and you're not playing on the weekends 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, it wears you out. That time is tough. But when you're playing well and you're making some money and you're in competition and you're getting close to winning or whatever, it's really fun. So it kind of depends how well you're playing, but it's the same kind of camaraderie on the tour that I had when I was at Pacific, where there's a group of guys, we're playing practice rounds together. I mean, the Tuesday practice rounds was probably the most fun. When you're playing the tournament, there's not a lot of chit chat, you're grinding. And the Tuesday practice rounds, Wednesday practice rounds, those were the fun days where you're hanging with your boys and you're talking smack and, going out to dinner with them in the same hotels. So it's pretty similar to the college experience. I'd say it's just everything ramps up.
How much would having a facility like the one Pacific has now, how much would that have helped you, back when you were here, and how much can it potentially help the golfers that will end up coming through Pacific and get them ready to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, it's really big. And nowadays, almost all the good golf teams have something like, what Pacific has. So there's a competition that forms between the schools where if you don't have this kind of stuff, a good recruit might go someplace else. But yeah, the technology, I use a launch monitor when I teach every day. Nobody even dreamed up what a launch monitor was when I was playing. We had to guess. We didn't even know what the numbers would have meant if we had them. Mm-hmm. So now we have all this data that can help us if we use it properly, and we have a coach that can help us. And so, the golf team there right now, if they get good instruction, they're looking at this data and they have nice turf and good balls and a nice spot to practice, no excuses.
By the way, why did you end up coming to Pacific?
When I was in high school, I was just an okay player. I didn't start till I was 14. So I was kind of behind the curve. I was getting better every year. So I wasn't highly recruited. I had to go send my letters to all the coaches. One of my friends from my home course went there and played golf, Chris Baxter. So I had a little familiarity. I went to the campus visit. I loved the campus and the school. And I felt like they played a competitive enough schedule where I knew I was going to get to play against good competition, but I felt like I could play. And I teach this to the kids that I'm teaching right now. You want to pick a school that you love first, that you can play at second. So some of these kids fall in love with Oklahoma State or something like that, or at UCLA or something like that, and they sit the bench, the whole time. And that does you no good. If you are aspiring to play the tour, you better get competing. So you got to pick a school that you can make the team and get on the travel squad and figure out if you're good enough.
Sure.
So that's why.
Elsa, why did you choose Pacific?
So my high school coach, who is much like a father figure to me, Jim Riley and John Dunning, were best friends. And I was heavily recruited as a high school athlete, and he was one of the only people that wouldn't lie to me. And I came to campus and I loved the way it looked. I felt immediately at home. The girls welcomed me with open arms, and they are still some of my best friends today, right? So going back to that piece, but I was really looking for a coach that would help me grow both as a human and as an athlete, because there were a lot of coaches, I don't know anymore, I'm too old, but a lot of coaches during that time period were, they just destroyed people. And they treated them like machines, and I'm a human. So I wanted to be treated like that. And Jim knew that John would treat me like that and gave that blessing. But it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I always thank my lucky stars that was the decision that I made instead of going across the country, because I had other schools that I was looking at. And the other reason is because I'm from Santa Cruz. So my mom would never be able to see me if I went across to like Florida or Penn State or the other schools that I was looking at. And so there was a lot that went into that decision, but I'm a high school teacher now, and anyone who wants to come to Pacific comes to my room, and I try to talk them into it. So because what I got was way more than just the volleyball team, right? I had an incredible education. I got all kinds of contacts I would have never had I not chosen that way, right? And so the friends, the connections, the education, the teams, all of it mattered, but I didn't even know that until I got there.
We appreciate the recruitment on behalf of the recruiting office.
Yeah.
But it was interesting for you, like you kind of came to Pacific at a time where, and we just talked about this with some volleyball players, volleyball was kind of branching out to like the Big Ten and, like you said, across the country. So was there that allure for you still to kind of go out and see the new frontier of volleyball, where it was pushing like out that way? Or did you always kind of want to stay on the West Coast where it was still the...
Do you want me to answer as a 40-plus-year-old, or do you want me to answer as a 17-year-old?
You can answer however you want.
I was really snobby. I didn't think that anything besides California was legit. I know that's terrible.
No, that's
terrible to say. I'm so embarrassed.
No, I think that's...
But we were like, no, you guys all, whatever with your Midwesternness, go away. You don't know how to play beach. No, you don't have ball control. No, you don't know how to tip. No, you can't push off a block. No, you can't do that. So I was definitely California centric. Although the other two schools that I was interested in, kind of, but really it was UOP all the way. I committed super early in my time frame. I committed before my senior year, which was unheard of at that time, really. I know that that's shocking, 8th grade committal people. But I committed early because I had a really good feeling, and I knew that I had stability there. It was a great school. It was a great program. It had history. It had depth. All of those things really mattered to me, and they were in that zone because I wanted a championship. So it was in that zone where I could really do something to help that happen.
I think nowadays it would be like super hipster to say you want to stay in California because you just think that California volleyball is better than everywhere else. Like
but I'm from like the surfer era that why would you go to competition when you could just surf for fun? I'm from that era of, I literally spent every day off playing pickup games with dudes from the age of 5. So that's how I grew up. So I really didn't think that anyone other than Californians really knew the depth of the soul of the volleyball game, right?
Hey, I appreciate that. Trust me.
Sorry, Sedona, you're from Arizona. Sorry.
I was going to say, I was just going to ask Sedona. I want to ask Sedona and Griffin.
I understand that.
So Sedona, why did you come to Pacific?
Well, I knew 2 things when I was being recruited. I knew that I wanted to get out of Arizona, and I knew that I wanted to stay on the West Coast. But other than that, I had no idea what I wanted, which I think was fair because I was, a junior when I was being recruited.
Mm-hmm.
But so I came to Pacific. It was like a spur of the moment decision because we were on vacation. So I came here, and like I said, I had no idea like what I wanted. But after like talking to Greg and all of that, like I knew I wanted a private school because I wasn't about to go to ASU with 70,000 people. And I knew after talking to Greg that Greg was more than just a coach. Like after talking to a lot of my friends who have played college volleyball, like they said their head coach is like just their head coach. Like that's all they're there for. Like they're there to show up to practices and games and like that's it. But like with Greg, like I knew immediately like he was much more than that. Like we can go to Greg anytime during the day and just talk to him about like whatever we need. Like he's always there for us. And I think that was one of the things that really drew me in. And at the time when I was being recruited for UOP, it was a completely different team than what we have now. So, I mean, that whole aspect is just completely different from what it is now. But I'm really happy with the team that we do have because I don't know how to describe it. Like, we're all so close. Like, they're not even like my teammates. Like, they're my best friends. And I think that's, like, I wouldn't go anywhere else because I knew if I went somewhere else, like, I wouldn't have that aspect. So.
Greg, I don't want to give away your secret sauce totally here, but like when you encounter a recruit like Sedona who doesn't know really what she wants, but you know you want her, how do you go about selling your vision of Pacific volleyball to a recruit like that?
I think the team, you know, I think your best sell. I mean, we've got some things at Pacific that nobody has. One, the tradition that we have. I mean, we've got the Elenas, the Elsas. We've got phenomenal camaraderie that was there long before us. I mean, you got to remember, I'm a rock throw away from John Dunning too, so don't think that he and I don't talk a lot. I mean, he's a mentor of mine to this day, even Kathy Gregory, Marv Dunn. I mean, it's just we really have some things here. But as every recruit that ever comes through to us, you know, is I think X's and O's. Everybody has their X's and O's, and I think, you know, within our own conference, we've got great X's and O's coaches. But, you know, I think with us, I always tell our recruits, anybody that comes on the campus, the best sell I have are these girls. They come from eclectic backgrounds, and I think they're absolutely amazing. Even the headaches that they give me, you know, I mean, I love them always, but I don't always like them. You know what I mean? But I think they're absolutely amazing. I mean, I learn from them as much as what I hope that, you know, by the time they leave here, what they've learned from me and our program and my staff. I mean, but I think it starts, you know, from where, you know, I've been through 3 athletic directors, but every one of them have been about, you know, our core is there is a family. There is the, you know, it's about more than just, it's not, you know, wins and losses. It's about everything put into that. And the result is getting to that championship, you know, I mean, but if you do things, focus on the process, do things right, you know, and the camaraderie that you establish, I think that is a selling point. I mean, where else can you go? And I've been at other universities where I can walk down a hallway and say hi to a golfer. I can say hi to everyone, have a conversation with everyone. I can share my ideas with other coaches. I can go and watch practices with other coaches. I've been other places where, no, you don't go anywhere near, you know, they don't want anything to do with you. So I think it's something that's catchy. I mean, I've got, you know, friends that are professors at the university. I go in and sit on their class just to see how they're teaching. So, I mean, I think it's just part of what's in the air, you know, other than the smoke right now, you know, at Pacific. So I think it's a tremendous place. But yeah, I think the biggest sell I have absolutely are these girls.
I think you bring up a great point about the synergy on campus and within the athletic department. Griffin, what was your selling point other than you won at the reserve and you had a good feeling about making that your home course?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me was going to a school that had good academics, and Pacific obviously met that. And another thing that really stood out to me was when I went on my visit here, Coach Cook told me that if I was willing to put in the work, he'd make me really good. And that was the one thing that really sold me. And a lot of the other things that Jeff had mentioned too, just kind of fit nicely into place, and decided it was where I wanted to go.
Nice. Are you happy with the decision to this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. John, I'm going to ask you what I asked Greg. Like, if you have somebody that is, you know, kind of on the fence and doesn't really know the direction they want to go, what's your pitch to them?
Well, obviously, the university, I mean, it's one of the best in the country as far as I'm concerned, as far as academics. You know, just get a kid on campus. You know, sometimes Stockton does get a bad rap for, you know, the Stockton aura, but when you get a kid on campus, it's an amazing spot. And, you know, our big selling point is, you know, we're all about the team culture. You know, golf is an individual sport, but we play as a team. And, you know, if a kid's on the fence, there's a lot of key aspects. You know, there's a huge community support of golf in this town. We've got guys that come out and watch us play. You know, we're out there practicing we play every course in town, Swenson Park, Elkhorn, we play them all. And we have different people come out there and watch us and talk to us. And it's just a nice camaraderie of people care about what's going on at the golf program. It's a great home atmosphere, family atmosphere that we have here at Pacific.
Can you give us some insight, John, as to what it's like for a golfer going from high school to college? So, for example, I call the men's basketball games, and I can tell when a freshman, even if they were a really good high school senior, makes the jump from, senior year high school Division I college basketball, and you're going up against much, much different competition. Golf is in a way individualized, but is there kind of a high school to college jump in golf the same way there might be with other sports?
Yes, there's a big difference. Coach Zaccardi and I call it junior golf to college golf. There's a big difference. So a lot of times as juniors, they'll try to hit it as hard as they can and kind of find it. And then as they progress, they get a little older, there's a little more strategy involved. They're all starting to hit it further. I mean, everybody, I'm sure Jeff can allude to, these kids all hit it 300 plus yards anymore. Sometimes even with a 3-wood. But so we have to kind of focus them in a little bit and kind of play the hole backwards a little bit and kind of pick and choose your spots, a little more strategy on the course instead of just kind of grip it and rip it and go find it. So there's definitely a transition from freshman to their senior year. Definitely maturity.
Griffin, can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big thing too is that the courses we play in college are more difficult. Kind of where they put the pins makes you not be able to go at it like all the time, because if you do, you're going to end up in too many bad spots and it just won't help. And another thing too is kind of adjusting to living on your own. I mean, it's the same with all sports, but kind of having to deal with the other stuff that maybe you weren't having to deal with in high school, and still be able to find time to study and to practice is, I think, a big part of it too.
Sure. I want to remind everybody that you can ask questions to any one of our panelists. If you go to the chat window, you can ask the question to Bree, and then she'll pass it along to me. We do have some questions here that I want to get into as we start to round the corner. I want to start with Jeff, and a question here. What was it like to play under Glenn Albaugh? What was it like playing for Mr. Albaugh?
Well, he's kind of a legend, right?
He is.
So, he was great. He was a sports psychologist and a coach. He wasn't necessarily a swing coach, that kind of thing, but he tried to get us mentally ready, which, to make the jump from junior golf to college golf to professional golf, there's levels of, you have to be technically better. You have to be mentally better. You have to be ready to go when you get on the tee. So he helped us with all that. And he was fun, and the team was fun. So it wasn't like I didn't choose Pacific because of Glenn, but I'm glad Glenn was there when I was at Pacific.
Were you ever on tour as a professional, and were there ever elements of what Glenn taught you that resonated at any point with you while you were out there as a golf pro?
Yeah, so Glenn introduced me when I turned pro. This is in 1987. Some of you weren't even born. To a guy named Bob Rotella, Dr. Bob Rotella. He's probably the most prominent golf sports psychologist in the game. And at that point, Glenn was working kind of under Bob. He was learning from Bob. And so Glenn said, why don't you go work with Bob? So I spent 6 or 7 years working with Bob Rotella. And Glenn used a lot of those same principles. And then after I started working more with Glenn and less with Bob, and yeah, so he taught me basically sports psychology gets down to make the best decision for the shot that's in front of you, commit everything you got to that decision, and trust yourself enough to let it go. Sounds easy, it's really hard. The best players do it better. So it gets down to that and how accountable you are to that every shot until you run out of shots. That's usually what separates the guy that's holding the trophy.
It's also the
metaphor for life, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Glenn also worked with me, and it's the same principles that apply to volleyball, to golf. Is that the presence of the moment helps you to eliminate the mistakes of the past.
Yep.
Right? And then how to hold yourself, right? Especially for female athletes. There's a lot that goes into it that males maybe don't have to deal with, right? Playing in spandex is not always fun, especially when you're in Santa Barbara. He's chuckling because he knows.
Is that a Kathy Gregory joke or what?
No, it's a really hard place to play in because they're not nice to you.
Yeah.
And so those lessons of the presence of mind, walking like a champion, walking into a room and owning a room, that's all Dr. Alba, right? And he helps so many athletes for so many years. Amazing. He's so good.
Yeah, I consider myself lucky to have gotten to meet him and then watch him work with the basketball team for a number of years. Elsa, what about you? Your favorite Pacific memory? This is a question from the gallery, and then I'm going to jump to Jeff for the same one.
Oh gosh, I have so many. Probably the regional going into the Final Four my senior year, and the absolute release of the amount of work it took to get there, and beating Florida very, very handily, and it was the biggest crowd we've ever had in that gym. And it was pretty special knowing that we were going to the show, right? And knowing that we did it together, and it took a lot of years and a lot of hard work, and that, that, and playing in front of a Stockton crowd to do that is pretty magical. It's hard to beat, for sure.
That's awesome. Jeff, what about you?
I would probably say things. To nationals, so that was great. And then every year we went to play a tournament in Hawaii in February, and I just have really good memories of playing football on the beach with the team in between the rounds, and rental house, and just hanging with the guys in a setting like Hawaii and actually playing and competing there. So there's a whole bunch of things, but those are two that stand out. Hello.
Did we just lose Zach?
We still on?
Oh wait, there he is. Okay, hold on. He's back.
Sorry, that was a little. Yeah. My internet got choppy on me. That's the first time that's happened to me. I was like, oh God.
Don't do that to us, Zach.
Sorry. I know I just gave Bree a heart attack. Sorry. I caught the beginning of Jeff's answer, so I'm guessing that you finished, Jeff.
Did everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think I was the only one that had an issue there. So sorry about that. I am going to get back to the questions here, and I wanted to get to one about the scheduling, and maybe we can go back over it again with Greg and John briefly. They want to know how you're kind of forming your spring schedule, not knowing who you can compete against and what the landscape is. And Greg, I'll start with you.
You know what? One, we're going to wait as long as we can. It's going to be one of those as we're putting the schedule, because we got to create two, right, for our indoor and beach. So we're going to wait. We've got some time here, with, I think a lot of it has to go from Janet, our athletic director and President Callahan. And once the WCC lets us know what that decision is, then we'll start filling in some other play dates. I think I think there's a good possibility you'll see our conference start playing in February, and we'll get our girls back in late December, to start really getting after it, to get ready for a season. But it's exciting. So,
John?
Yeah, our schedule, we have a tentative schedule right now. Obviously, some dates outside of the state of California. We have a kind of contingency plan. If we have to stay more in California, we got a couple coaches that we're talking to. Most time our schedule's already made a year out in advance. So we're just kind of being pretty flexible right now with that. Obviously there's a lot of if-then case scenarios, and if we have to drive and load up our van and drive down to Phoenix, and that's what we'll do. We'll do whatever it takes to compete for these guys.
I got a question for Coach Cook, and Griffin can answer as well. I'm going to start with Coach Cook. This is from my buddy LP, who's here, the associate head men's basketball coach. Question is, with your new facility, is it possible the facility can help a lifelong hack like myself stop embarrassing himself on the golf course, or is there just no hope regardless of facilities? I'm going to vote say no hope, but I'll let John take it from there.
Well, LP, anytime you want to come out once we're up and running, you're more than welcome. Love to spend the afternoon with you guys.
Kind of more importantly, and maybe Griffin can answer this, like, are there elements, Griffin, of that facility that you can really get take a deep dive into individual aspects of your game and really improve, be it short game, long game, what have you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the TrackMan, which is the launch monitor that we're going to have once we get in there, is huge on kind of understanding like your individual data, like your numbers, your tendencies, being able to keep everything dialed in with that. And then also the greens that we have out there are really good for wedges. So you should be able to excel in both those areas.
Mm-hmm. Well, for LP, the TrackMan only works ball off the turf, so that you can start working on contact first, and then we'll get into the TrackMan stuff. So you got a question for Sedona. Can you talk to us about yourself as a beach player versus an indoor player, or your two individual games, and does the venue change your game at all?
Most definitely. I think beach, well, I'm a middle for indoor, which means I don't pass the ball most of the time. So in beach, obviously you do everything. So being able to like hammer down the skill of passing in beach has definitely helped my indoor game a lot. But I definitely think like last semester when we were able to practice, like going from indoor to beach was really hard on the body, but also on like our game, because you know, you don't have to worry about wind or weather or any of that stuff. But I do love them both so much. Like if I had to pick between the two, I really don't think I could.
Greg, how do you change how you coach based on the venue, based on indoor and beach?
That's still trying to work with dual sport athletes, like especially coming into the new year, because normally, you know, like even when I played, you go from indoor, I took a couple months to train to get ready for beach. You know, I think a lot of it is right now, you know, that's where I'm talking with Katie and Corey, my staff, is how the heck, you know, I mean, mm-hmm. It's doable. It's about finding the right, you know, along with rest around with all those things, is how do we get them the reps and feedback they need so they're getting better for this. But then the crossover is where it's getting hard, is how do you train for indoor and beach at the same exact time in both the same competitive seasons? I don't know yet. You know, I'm talking to a lot of people trying to get some ideas, and I'm talking with my staff. But I mean, normally, you know, in indoor, we'll focus in the fall. That's all indoor. Let's get after it. Then they go on break. Then we come back and we're doing beach with a little bit of indoor, doing some small training. But the reality is just, I mean, I think is trying to get them to compete, because it's night and day. The only thing similar between them is the word volleyball, you know, mm-hmm. as far as having to do some things, very different training, and we're just working through it, trying to figure it out. But you know, I mean, we got some exceptional student athletes, and we've already started planting a seed in their heads to think about, hey, you're gonna have to do through both. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I think the one thing is we can get away with is they haven't competed in over 7 months by the time we've done this. I think they don't care where we play. We could play mud volleyball, and they're going to be all for it. So
For sure. Well, we're hoping we see competition soon, and we're hopeful for that. That is going to take care of it for us. I want to give a special thank you to Elsa and to Jeff for joining us. You guys' answers and insights and perspectives has been phenomenal. I want to also give a couple of announcements. We're off next week with Tiger Talk. We're going to be back on Tuesday, the 29th. And it's a special Where Are They Now edition of Tiger Talk. And then also save the date for golf's virtual Meet the Team event. That's on Thursday, October 1st. And more info is going to be sent out about that soon. Before we leave, I want to ask the golf guys. This is a question from Tim Dixon. Who's going to win the U.S. Open? I'll get Jeff's answer, and then I'll give Griffin and John the last crack.
I think I got to go with DJ right now.
Okay. Griffin?
I'm going to go Rory.
John?
I'm going with my go-to guy in the majors, Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay.
Except he hasn't won one yet.
He's due, though. He's due. He's due.
All right. Let the record show your picks are out there. So and this is going to be archived. So we're going to go back, and if one of those guys wins, we'll send you guys some sort of prize from the PAF. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's a pleasure and a great time as always. I feel like we've carved out a nice little niche on these Tuesday Tiger Talks. But thanks for joining us. Stay safe and go Tigers. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you guys.
Thank you.